We'll take questions.
Afternoon, guys. Obviously turning the corner, really, for us into the month of October. We got 2 on the road, 2 at home. Kind of laying out a roadmap for our team over the next 30 some odd days, and getting into a little bit of mid-season and how we navigate. You know, a little bit from the big picture setting of what's coming down the road, and then shrinking our focus into a very, very talented Miami, Ohio team coming in this Saturday, coached by Chuck Martin. So much respect for the program that he has, the job that they do. You look at their defense, big, long, athletic, do a really good job up front of plugging and penetrating and playing very firm up front, and the backers do a good job of flowing over the top. Secondary makes plays over the top. Big time win for them last week, going into a Big Ten opponent's house and getting that win on the road. And the quarterback that's played has done a really, really good job. I mean, he just manages the game very well, takes care of the ball, very smart in what they're asking him to do. They run the ball very efficiently, and they have really good receiving threats where they can take it over the top when necessary. Special teams is coached very well, very sound, and we know it's a big challenge ahead. Really, really proud of the work that our guys have done, really coming off the road win against Eastern Michigan, and handling ourselves the right way over the last 2 to 3 days. Obviously, a lot of guys stepped up in that game. A lot of guys made plays, and we're just turning the corner right now and getting ourselves ready for a very challenging month of football, and really a very challenging game coming up this week against Miami, Ohio. So I think this team is energized. I think this team is very focused, and we just got to continue to grow, continue to get better, and continue to make the plays in critical moments. And we spent a lot of time last week on finishing, and we did that. We did that this past week against Eastern Michigan on the road.
You mentioned last week about maintaining confidence even coming off of some of those losses. How much did this win maybe add to that and boost the confidence in the line?
Yeah, I think when you actually get the result that you're looking for, obviously there's a natural confidence that goes into it. But when we stood in front of you, 2-3 weeks ago, and we talked about, we had a tough loss against Holy Cross. We had a very tough loss at Coastal. And learning the lessons that we needed to learn. I think what the month of September has taught this team is really you have 2 options. You can kind of compromise and cut corners, or you can show great character and learn from the mistakes that you have to learn from. And this team chose character. This team chose to stay together. And the confidence that I had that we talked about weeks ago was that although we didn't get the results that we wanted, I saw the improvement. I saw the on-field improvement from week 1 to week 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. And I really felt strongly that if we could continue to play our brand of football, but also execute in critical moments down the stretch, that we were going to get the result that we were after. We got it this past week. No one owns success, so we have to kind of go back to repeating the process of what we put in play this past week to get ourselves in the right position. But that's where our confidence and conviction comes from, and also the people that we have in that locker room and the strong leadership that we have in that locker room.
How much easier is it for you to coach this team, not just after a win, but after a MAC game where the levels are a little more even, where the things that you want to do are more likely to happen,
yes,
unlike the first part of the season?
Yes, it's a great point. We talk about from training camp, from the summer, from January, hard. Okay, handling adversity, responding and dominating, because there's hard in losing a game and there's hard in winning a game, and they're just 2 different types of hard that you have to deal with. The hard we had to deal with against Holy Cross and getting beat on the last play of the game is different than the hard of great success of going on the road and having a big win. And it's how we navigate and how we go right back to who we are and the same approach. So, we have to maintain our intensity throughout the entire season, because there's hills and valleys, right? So how do you just kind of continue in a very neutral place but keep your emphasis on improving, keep your emphasis on finding mistakes and getting them corrected, and then continue to push things forward. And I think that's where the sweet spot is for this team. They've handled the hard really well, where probably not a lot of people think we could go on the road and do what we did, but there's a lot of leadership in place, there's a lot of belief and trust in place, and that's why we were able to do that.
Talk about belief. The quarterback is always a leader on the team. Do you think Cole Snyder's going a little farther and making this his team?
I believe the more, from a very tangible place, the more he plays and continues to play well and makes plays, and before he even gets on the football field, you see a guy that's wired the right way. Cole Snyder, his process is right, his daily approach is right. He can make plays, but he's a very humble young man, but he also has a great balance of confidence through his preparation. And I think when the team sees him compete the way that he competes, it's very natural to draw towards him because of who he is and how he operates. And obviously, no game that we play is Cole Snyder versus any opponent. We need to play very well around him, which I think, our offensive line has stepped up. Our receivers have been making plays. We're running the ball pretty efficiently. Tight ends have been really strong and reliable for us. And the play calling has had a really good balance to it. It's a fine-tuned machine that you want to continue to make sure that all the other pieces around him are right. But the more he continues to play very well and perform in the moment, I think it's only natural that the guy's belief continues to go up. And it's not just on offense or defense. It's all phases of the game. So, really proud of Cole, proud of our whole operation in terms of how everyone around him is operated, and we feel very confident in his ability.
Are you able to open the offense up more because of Cole's abilities, or how much of it is other factors?
Yeah, great point. I think, we talked about this in the spring some, and, guys like Justin Marshall, who's a playmaker. Keon Williams is a playmaker. Jamari Gassett, long plays. Even Cole Harrity stepped in and done a really good job. You got Ron Cook, you got Mike Washington, you got Al-J Henderson, you got Robbie Mangus at tight end. Ray Embry can still stretch the seam as well. Trevor Borland does it all. Trevor Borland does it all for us. He can block, he can run after the catch. So it's a collection of guys all pulling together. And we've had a mix of different people at the O-line that we've plugged and played in different situations. Gabe's been really reliable and dependent. Jack Haas snapping has been very well, doing a really good job. And Isaiah Wright at tackle has been holding his own out there. So it's a great mix of guys. Sidney Walker's come in. Nick Hartnett's come in. It's a mix of guys stepping in and stepping up and having a next man up mentality. And then, from a defensive perspective, you just want to continue to play complementary football. We were able to get the stops in minus territory against Eastern Michigan, turn the ball over to the offense, create short fields. Offense, bang, 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 go down and score. Alex McNulty, when we need him to step in and kick the ball, he's 9 or 10 on the year, kicking field goals, leading. He may be number 1 in the nation or top 2 or 3 in the nation in kicking field goals. And everyone collectively has to just continue to do their part. And we got to coach, we have to play, we have to execute in critical moments. And I think this team is ascending and hitting a really good stride right now. We know that we don't expect anything to be easy for us. We don't expect anybody to feel sorry for us. We have to continue to handle the hard the right way. And if September has taught us anything about football, it's that things don't get easier. You just handle hard better. And we got to continue to handle the hard the right way, get our mind where it needs to be on a weekly basis, and continue to pour into our process and our approach to get ourselves where we need to be every Saturday.
Your team had combined nearly 500 yards at Eastern Michigan. How do you continue that consistency, that fluidity, the confidence against a very, very good defense?
Yeah, it's 4 words. So what, now what? Right? So, all right, so what did you do? All right, so now what do we have to do? What's the next? How do we, I think some of probably the best people in any profession are very detail-oriented, and they could probably tell you why they were successful or why they were not successful, because that's how you can repeat success, or that's how you can improve upon success, and that's how you can learn from mistakes. If we, continue to stay very humble and stay very hungry and be our own hardest critics on the details of what we're doing, it's going to put us in a very healthy place to be able to repeat the success or learn from the adversity that we have to learn and grow from. And I think that's the sweet spot that we want to remain in. The team is practicing very hard, and the leadership on this team is right. I'm not saying anything in football is ever perfect, but it's right. It's the right mix of stuff. The energy on this team, the coaches are coaching very well and very hard, and there's a lot of very truthful conversations because of the relationships and trust that's in place. I got so much respect for Miami, Ohio, and who they are as a program and what they've been able to accomplish and the longevity that Coach Chuck Martin has had. And we're looking forward to the challenge in front of us that we have coming down the road 3:30 on Saturday.
Coach, defense gets probably its best 30 minutes of the season in that
Yeah.
second half. What goes into that, and just like she said with the offense, how do you continue that consistency into the season?
You know, I thought we caught some momentum in terms of getting one stop and then turning it into another stop, and then the energy continued to raise up. And then, you know, Cole Snyder's down on the defensive sideline. Hey, guys, get the ball back. Get me one more opportunity. Get us the ball back one more time. And then we get that one fourth down stop, and then we get a third down stop, and then we forced a punt. And then we had a critical moment in the game. I think we were up. I want to say we were up 12, and then we got the stop on the minus territory, and you just felt the entire sideline erupt. We still know the game comes down to execution, you know, doing your job, and we are able to have some healthy discussions on, you know, after the game to show guys when we do it right, we can be pretty dang good when we do it the right way. And here's what winning football looks like. You know, you may not make the tackle, or you may not make the interception, you may not make the pass breakup, but by you doing your job in this moment, we can have the team success that we need. You may not make the play, but your job can be the catalyst that makes the play. So we're putting a big emphasis on everybody owning their 111th and doing their piece to put us in a position to be successful. But there's belief and there's energy, and it's guys flying around and just feeding off of one another. And I think they're doing a really good job of doing that.
What's the biggest challenge that Miami poses to your team?
There's a lot. It's hard to say one. I think because of the success that they've had, I would believe that they expect to be in hard-fought battles and they expect to win. They've had a lot of success at Miami, Ohio, and done a really good job over a long period of time. I think they play very hard. I think they play together. I think really these games are also come down, you know, to a test of your foundation as well as a program. You know, we're coming off of a lot of lessons, good and bad. We're coming off some success, and it's how we handle ourselves moving forward. And so much of the mid-season games are about you doing what you do well, and we don't have to be the best team in the nation. We got to just play very, very well at 3:30 on Saturday and be the best team in the stadium.
How has their offense been forced to change once Gabbert, who might arguably be the best quarterback in the MAC, goes down?
Yeah, when you look over the history, maybe over the last 4 or 5 years, Miami, Ohio's had a very long tradition of being able to have a very efficient throw game and a very complimentary run game. They've thrown it around over the last 2 or 3 years very, very well. Really good receivers, length, athleticism, speed, great spacing, and their concepts they really challenge you from a conceptual standpoint. You saw the offense make a little bit of a shift into a little bit more run orientation, and there's a little bit more run to it. There's a little bit more. I think the coordinators are doing a really good job of controlling the pace and the tempo of the game from the sideline, and the offensive line to kind of make that transition has done a good job for them. They're creating movement up front, creating a lot of zone and gap schemes, and a lot of problems in terms of adding the extra gap and making sure we know how to fit your gap and how to plug and fit gaps when through post safety spacing and in shell coverage. So there's a little bit of challenge just because of the shift of offense, but I really like the plan that we have, and we're looking forward to putting that plan in place on Saturday.
Coach, do you draw confidence because beating a team that just came off an out-of-conference win is something you just did last week?
I think that's a fair statement and point to make, but I would tell you truthfully, after Holy Cross, I told you I was confident in this team. After Coastal Carolina, I told you I was confident in this team. My confidence in this team never wavered, and it's not necessarily tied to just the result. It's tied to our process and how we have done things and how the guys have handled themselves in preparing the right way. Nobody wants to see, this team have great success, really more than the guys in the locker room and the coaching staff, but the process has to continue to be right, and that's really where the confidence comes through our process and our preparation. I think you also gain confidence when you get the result and you have a demonstrated ability that you can do it and you've done it the right way. Us being able to finish in the fourth quarter the way we did, obviously that's something that we can draw back on and teach off of. But we can teach off of Eastern Michigan as much as I can teach off Coastal Carolina not finishing. But we have to just learn the lessons and apply them for the next week. And then the challenge for us is to stay in a good sweet spot of just stick to the process, put the blinders on, go to work, own our job responsibilities, stay together in critical moments, stay together when things are at their perceived best, stay together. Things get a little tough, just stay together, stay in the fight, and just continue to play the next play. And our team has done a really good job of doing that.
What's your approach when coaching the defense when it's a game like the first half was the other day with trading scores and high-scoring action type
Yep.
things? How do you handle trying to get
It kind of varies. Great question. I believe it kind of varies on why are the mistakes occurring. So first place is if it's a schematic issue where there's a schematic advantage for them and we have to make those adjustments, let's get ahead of it right now, get to the sideline as a staff, make those adjustments and keep the players poised in those situations. Sometimes they come down to a guy just not executing in a critical moment. If it's those things, then we have to address those things the right way. A lot of times when you watch the film, there's probably a good healthy mix of both those things, a collection of both those issues going on. We just want to stay ahead of the issues, solve the problems before they occur, and then go right back to who we are, matching our intensity and our play style, attacking the ball on defense, limiting the explosive plays, whether in post safety spacing or in split safety spacing, winning the turnover battle, winning in critical situations, playing disciplined football. Really proud of this team right now. We're the least penalized team in the Mid-American Conference through penalties right now through this first month of the season. It's the discipline that the guys have been showing in the locker room, and then ultimately dominating and winning in those fourth quarter battles through execution and details and just kind of staying in that space of football.
Coach, it's a big weekend on campus. Obviously exciting with all the games on here and homecoming, but there's also an emphasis off the field on mental health awareness. And I know your staff has gone through the H3H training here on campus, and I know you always preach to take care of the person as a whole, right, mind and body. And so just your thoughts on the importance of having an awareness game like this and what your message is to the team to help end that stigma.
Probably maybe one of the more overlooked topics in athletics. Our administration through Mark Allnut, Nate Wills, Deanne Keller did a phenomenal training session with the coaching staff. Rose brought a lot of things to light that I was maybe aware of, but maybe not as aware of in great detail in terms of, what is mental health? What does it look like? What are healthy relationships versus non-healthy relationships? And how can we better serve our young people as leaders, as coaches, as mentors to make sure that they stay in a great mental space? And then how do we identify when things are off, and then what do we do? From a practical setting, what's the next thing that we do? So if we recognize something going on, and our administration did a phenomenal job educating our staff and teaching us about mental health through the Helinski's Hope, and so much light has come through a tragic event, and I think so many lives are being changed, and we just want to continue to number one, recognize it the right way, do our part as leaders in the industry and the profession to stay on the cutting edge of whatever those things are in terms of education, so those things can filter down to the young people that we deal with every single day. And I feel like we're in a good space. Our team knows that if anytime that they need help, that the help's available, and our administration does a great job of providing that help.
Not to be too flippant about the issue, but how do you think winning and losing and success on the football field factors into an athlete's?
There's never been probably through athletics and sports right now, just more visible time. I mean, you're on TV and on social media nonstop, and the good things are always a highlight reel, and then the not so good things are always a reel. And I think so much messaging happens around your building that you really can't control sometimes. And I think we really do a pretty solid job on is making sure that the messaging inside of our four walls stays consistent and strong from maybe I say me, but everyone across the board all the way through the building. And I just think for young people right now to understand that, that you're going to have some comments made sometimes that maybe you can't necessarily control, but just stay in terms of executing your job responsibility, stay in that space, go right back to the process, know how to repeat the success if you had it, and then know that if you had something not go so well, okay, how do you get it corrected and move forward?